morning, my dear students. I welcome all of you to today's science class. So, today we are going to do the chapter sorting materials into groups. That means we are continuing the same chapter. And the topic which we are going to take up today is property of materials, whether materials float or sink, and transparency. Fine. So let's begin with the recalling what we have learned in the previous class. So in the previous class we have learned that materials can be grouped according to its property. Material is a substance used to make an object or article. Objects can be made of more than one material. One object can be made of different materials. And also we have discussed about the properties that are based on its appearance, hardness and solubility. Fine. So I hope all of you have understood the property of hardness, appearance and solubility in the previous class. So let us look at what is today's objective. Yes, so what is the objective of today's class? So we'll be able to understand about the properties of material, yes, and we'll be studying about the difference between objects that floats and sink, and we'll also be studying about the difference between transparent, translucent and opaque objects. Children, in the previous class we have discussed about three properties of materials. And we had discussed how the materials can be grouped depending on those properties. So the properties which we have discussed in the previous class were appearance, hardness and solubility. Fine. So we have seen, yes, if you remember children, we have seen that the materials were categorized into two groups depending on its appearance. That is, how does the object look like? Yes. So the objects which has a luster, that means the objects which shine, were grouped under one category, and the objects which are non-lustrous or do not shine or are dull were grouped into another category. Yes. So we also have categorized the materials depending on its hardness or on its softness. Yes. So if we are able to compress the material, that means it's a soft material, and if we are not able to compress it easily, it's a hard material. Fine. And then apart from that, we also discuss about the solubility of substances, and you saw in the activity that the sugar and salt dissolved easily in water, and those substances which dissolves in water easily is called soluble substances. Yes. So I hope you remember all this. Okay. Then we also saw that when sand or soil, yes, when soil was added to water and also when chalk powder and sawdust was added to water, the substances did not dissolve in water. So those type of substances are called insoluble substances. Fine. So in the last class we have seen the solubility of solid substances. Fine. So today we'll also be looking into the solubility of the liquid substances. That means whether a liquid gets dissolved in another liquid or not. That means the solute and the solvent is liquid. Children, I hope that you know that a solution is made up of solute and solvent. The substance which gets dissolved is called a solute, and the substance which is dissolving the solute is called solvent. So when solutes are dissolved in solvent, it becomes a solution. So in many cases it is seen that the solute is solid, But the solute can be liquid and gas also. Similarly, the solvent can also be liquid and gas. Fine. So, we'll be discussing about the solubility of liquid in this class. Yes. Children, even today I have so many things for you. We will be doing a number of activities to find out what is the property of different materials. Yes. So in the previous class, what we have done is we found out the solubility of some substances, and we saw that sugar and salt could easily dissolve in water, and those substances are called soluble substances. Fine. And we also saw that some substances like sawdust and sand or soil, yes, could not be dissolved in water, and those substances are called insoluble substances. Fine. Now today we will be doing an activity to see whether liquid dissolves in water or not. Yes, so there are various types of liquids like the lemon juice, vinegar, yes, oil, kerosene. So we'll find out whether these liquids can dissolve in water or not. Okay, so I have roux afza with me, and now I'll pour little bit of roux afza, and then I'll show you, okay, whether it dissolves or not. We'll be testing whether roux afza dissolves or not. Okay, fine. So stir it a little bit and you'll see that the roux afza has dissolved in water. That means it is soluble. Fine. Now let's see whether oil is soluble in water or not. Fine. So I pour a little bit of oil in the water. Yes, and I stir a little bit. I stir a little bit, and you can see that the oil is floating. Fine, you can see that the oil is floating on the surface. Fine, it's not getting mixed with the water, it's not dissolving. So oil is insoluble in water. Fine. Now, not only liquids are soluble in water, even gas like oxygen and carbon dioxide is soluble in water. So this is the reason why aquatic animals can survive in water, because oxygen can readily dissolve in water, and the aquatic animals can take up that oxygen for their respiration process. Similarly, if you open a Coke bottle, the Coca-Cola bottle, yes, or any aerated drink, you'll find that some bubbles comes out. Yes, if you shake it and you open it, some bubbles comes out. So that bubbles is due to the presence of carbon dioxide in the water. Fine. So these are some examples of liquid dissolving in water and gases dissolving in water. Fine. Now let us go to the next part of today's class, that is the next property of materials. Yes. So the next property is to find out whether substances or materials float or sink. So children, when do materials float? When the density of that material or substance is less than water. Fine. And if the density is more, it will sink. So we will do an activity to find out which substances or which materials float and which material sink. Okay. Now before that, let us take let us do another activity. Then in this activity, what I'll do is, instead of instead of water, I'll be taking oil and I'll try to dissolve some sugar in it. Okay, I'll try to dissolve some sugar in it because oil is also liquid. Yes, oil is also liquid. So let's see whether it gets dissolved or not. Fine. So children, what do you think? Will sugar get dissolved in oil? No, sugar won't get dissolved in oil. Yes, so sugar is not soluble in oil, and this is the reason why we say water to be a universal solvent, because almost everything can get dissolved in water. Right? So now let's get back to the activity of whether substances or objects float or sink. Okay children, let us do the activity to show whether objects float or sink. Yes, I am putting an ice cream stick. So what happened? It is floating. Now I put a piece of paper. It is also floating. Yes. I put some dry leaves. What do you see? It's floating. Now I put a pin. Yes. So what happened? It sinked. And I put some stones. It also sinked. Fine. And here already you can see that the oil is floating on the surface of water. So oil also has less density than water. Now let's see what happens if we pour some honey. Yes, so remember there are liquids which can sink or it can float. Yes, so I am putting some honey. So what happened? You can see that it has sink. That means its density is more. Fine. I put this sharpener. It sinks. This is a lid. So I put it. It's big in size than the sharpener, but what? It is floating. Fine. So in this way we can test a number of objects to find out whether it floats or sink. So after the activity you have seen that some substances float and some substances sinks. Yes, so you have seen that the leaves float, the paper float, yes, but the pin or the stone will sink even though the size is small. Yes, so if the density of the substance is less than water, it will float, and if it is more than water, it will sink. Fine? Okay. Now, the next property of material is the transparency. We are going to discuss what is transparency. You might have played hide and seek, and even now also you might like to play hide and seek. Yes. So when you play hide and seek, where do you prefer to go and hide? Would you prefer to go and hide behind a glass window, or would you prefer to hide behind a wooden door? Yes, I am sure that you would prefer to hide behind the wooden door. But why is it so? Yes, why is it so? Now I have a piece of glass. You can see. Now if I want to cover my face with this glass, can I cover? Can you see me, children? Of course you can see. Why can you see? Because light can pass through the glass. Yes, and such type of substances are called transparent substances. Yes, clear water, air, these are all transparent substances. Plastic, they are all transparent substances. Fine. Now, here is a wooden cardboard. Now, I want to hide my face with this wooden cardboard. Children, can you see me? I am sure that you cannot see. Now, why is it so that you cannot see my face when I cover it with this wooden cardboard? Yes, it It's because light cannot pass through it. Fine. So, the objects through which light cannot pass are called opaque objects. Yes, and as a result, we won't be able to see things what is on the other side. Yes, other side of the opaque object. Fine. So, two types of substances we have already got, that is transparent object and the opaque object. Fine. Now, you might have also seen in when you go to shop, you might have seen that the shopkeeper keep the biscuits, sweets and then the eatables in transparent glass bottle or plastic bottle. So why do you think that the things are kept in glass or plastic bottles? It is only because so that it becomes easy for the customer to come and buy those things. And also the shopkeeper will find easy to take out the things and give it to the customer whenever required. Fine? Okay. Children, this is the first question of today's class. Why cannot we hide behind a glass window while playing hide and seek? And I'm sure that all of you know why you cannot. Yes? Children, do you remember the activity which we have done to test the presence of fats in food? Yes. So, if you remember that, I have shown you that if the food which contains oil or fats in it, if we crush it on plain paper, yes, it will make the paper what? Translucent. Yes, so this is the third type of object. Yes, third type of object. So, translucent objects are those through which light can pass partially. It does not pass completely, but it passes partially. Now, let's apply a little bit of oil on the paper. Yes, so let me apply it first and then I'll show you. Okay, so I have applied a little bit of oil on the paper and now you can see the difference between the part where I have not applied and the part where I have applied. Yes, can you see my fingers? Yes? Obviously no, you cannot see my fingers. Now here can you see a little bit? Yes, so you can see. Fine. So that means this area due to application of oil has become translucent. So you cannot see my hand clearly, my fingers clearly, but you can see it partially. Yes, you can see that my fingers or my hand is moving. Fine. So this type of objects are called translucent object. Fine. So materials can be grouped depending on their properties. So the property can be appearance and we can group it into whether the material is shiny or dull, and then we can also group materials into according to its hardness or softness, and then we can group and categorize the materials into solubility or non-solubility, and then whether the object will float or sink, and also whether the object is transparent, translucent or opaque object. Fine. So the second question which you have for today's class is, I'll shine the torch on my palm and just observe what happens. Children, you can see that I have covered the glass of a torch with my palm in a dark room. So you can see the other side of the palm. Now the question is that whether palm is transparent, translucent or opaque. You need to give reason for your answer also. Children, I hope you have enjoyed the activity, and this is all for today's class. Now, let us summarize what we have learned. We have learned that liquids like oil, kerosene are insoluble in water. Liquids like lemon juice, vinegar, ink are soluble in water. Then gases like oxygen and carbon dioxide are soluble in water. And water is called universal solvent because it dissolves almost all substances. The substances or objects that has less density than water floats, and those that have more density than water sinks in water. Objects can be classified into transparent, translucent or opaque depending on whether light can pass through it easily, light can pass partially, or light cannot pass through the object at all. So, this is what we have for today's class. Thank you and have a great day.